Hi, I am here with Dana Nachman. She is a director from Northern California, and she's got lots of exciting projects that she's been working on in recent years. She did Bat Kid Begins. She did Dear Santa. Those are both documentary films. And she did the documentary television series, Pick of the Litter. So welcome, Dana.
Thank you. Thanks so much for having me.
It's such a joy to have you. It's really a pleasure to get to meet you. I absolutely love your work. So thank you so much for being on with us.
You're kind.
I wanted to start with Bat Kid Begins, kind of go a little bit in chronological order because that was the first of the few I mentioned there. I was just amazed with how you were able to capture all of those events that transpired so quickly around Bat Kid Begins. How did you catch wind that that was happening, and how were you able to get organized and get to San Francisco so quickly?
So it's very funny. So this was a huge viral sensation. I think 1 billion people had watched it on the day of. And funnily enough, I was not one of the 1 billion people who watched it. I was like working on a film. I was not on any social media or on the web that day. I just kind of missed it. And the next day I was on a conference call with a bunch of men, like middle-aged men, and all of them were talking about this Bat Kid thing and this little boy. And I was like, why are all these guys talking about this? It was curious the way they were all so enthused about it. Yeah. So I looked it up and I was like, oh gosh. And I was really looking for like a lighthearted, amazing feel-good story at that time. And I was like, oh, I botched it. This would have been so perfect. You know, whoever's doing the documentary on that is so lucky. I was sure somebody was doing it. So a couple of weeks went by and talked to a friend of mine who worked at NBC. We used to be job share partners at NBC. And I said, what are you working on? And she said, oh, I'm trying to get an interview with the Bat Kid. And I said, oh, wow. Like, that's an amazing story. She said, I'm calling over to Make-A-Wish after this. And I was like, oh, ask them if who's doing their documentary. And if nobody, or, you know, if they need somebody to call me. And so just kind of a joke. And like 5 minutes later, she calls me back and she says, hey, they won't give me an interview with Bat Kid, but they'll meet with us tomorrow morning at 9 about a documentary. And I was like, wait, what? And so like, I had to kind of like come up with an idea to be able to tell them in the meeting, like the next morning. And my thought was, because obviously I had missed it, to crowdsource it, you know, because it was, you know, 2015, every person and their mother who was there had a camera. Sure, yeah. Everybody had a phone. I was like, what a cool thing, because the whole thing was viral and crowdsourced, really. Why not crowdsource a film about it? So that was my idea. So we show up, we totally hit it off with the CEO and the head of marketing. And she, you know, it sounded like, they're like, okay, let us think about it. A lot of people have approached us, but we like your vibe, but let us think about it. And on the way out the door, I said, you know, you didn't shoot it, did you, by chance? And they're like, oh yeah, we had a guy there with like 3 cameras to shoot it for our gala, for a little video for our gala. And I was like, okay. And so then we ended up, they came back and said yes to us. And, oh, but one other funny thing that happened was, one thing they asked us when they said that a lot of people had approached, they said, listen, we really want it for the 1-year anniversary of The Wish so that we could put it on screens at downtown San Francisco at City Hall. I was like, oh yeah, sure, no problem. And that would have been like about 10 months, like by the time, you know, like 10 or 11 months. But by the time we got it all going, it would have been like 9 months to make it. And I had never made anything in less than like 2 years. But I was like, oh yeah, of course I could do that. No problem. And so I think it was that they liked my resume. Plus they liked the fact that I would get it done in basically less than a year. And then we made it, we made our deadline, and it taught me how to work on a different pace, which was good. Yeah. And that's a long-winded way of how it happened. Fantastic.
Wow. Well, it's just an absolutely joyful story.
Oh, I loved it. I loved every minute of working on it, and it was fabulous. Yeah.
I mean, it just, for me, it just shows the beauty of humanity, how beautiful people can be, yes, you know, to one another. Because like the whole city united around this event. It's awesome.
Yeah, and the whole world. I mean, like people stopped what they were doing. President Obama tweeted at it. I mean, people flew in from out of town to just see this. It was like a wave of positivity. And everybody that we got to work with. So we worked with all the principals of the day, like everybody who planned it, everybody who played the different roles, like the Penguin and Batman and the damsel in distress. Like they were all just such special people that like it takes certain kinds of people to pull something like this off in the grand scale that they did. And then that's like infectious. And I loved working with all those people. They all had this childlike magic about them as adults. And that's something that always really resonates with me. And I like to surround myself with people like that. And I like to be like that. So it was awesome. It was just
wonderful, great. Wonderful. And then this year, the big hit, documentary wise, I I just felt like Dear Santa was like the breakout hit of the year. Like everybody, people need feel good right now, and people were really, really seeking that out, I thought. So tell me, how did that all come together? What made you want to tell that story?
Yeah, that was awesome. Actually, I learned about the story. So the story is that the United States Postal Service has been getting letters written to Santa Claus for more than 100 years. And for more than 100 years, they've been dealing with them in one way or another. They work with the letters, and there's hundreds of thousands of them. And about 10 years ago or a little more, my mom bought me a book that she found at the post office, and it told the story of this program of working with the Santa letters. And I read it to my kids, and I read it every year. And every year I was like, oh, this would be such an amazing film. But at the time I was doing much darker films. I was a journalist, and I worked for NBC for a long time and other TV stations. And I was a news person, and I did 3 films that were really dark. And I was always looking, starting with Bat Kid, to do lighter stuff. But I thought, there's no space in the industry for like lighthearted documentaries. So I kind of like put that aside until Bat Kid happened. Right after Bat Kid, I did another feel-good film called Pick of the Litter. And then right when I was working on the Pick of the Litter series, so like our film got optioned to be a series for Disney Plus. And right when that happened, I thought, okay, I have this cred now, I would say, as a feel-good documentarian, who could make these stories, make them and sell them. So I approached the United States Postal Service and I said, I've been fascinated with your program about Dear Santa for a long time. I'd love to be able to make a film about it. And, we negotiated it for several months, and they finally said yes. And so I got to make the film 2019, right before the pandemic. We shot the whole thing between Thanksgiving and Christmas, following a bunch of letters that kids wrote through them getting adopted by elves that were anointed by Santa, and then through the kids getting their gifts. And then it was just really a pleasure to make. And then, soon after, the world shut down for COVID, and we were making the film all through the first 5 months of COVID, or 6 months. And so every day it was Christmas here in my house, with my kids all home from school, and we were just working on it. And it was really joyous to be working during that time and working on something so positive. And then it came out at the end of that year, at the end of 2020. And when you saw the shots of 2019 of all the people at Rockefeller Center and all the different kids in classrooms writing their letters, it was just really touching that wasn't happening anymore. But it was really also made you feel good about humanity, that there's all these people who work on making these dreams come true for little kids. It was awesome.
Yes, just a wonderful story and a wonderful program, the Postal Service.
Such a cool thing. And there was one scene I was really bummed it never made it into the film, but it was like probably my favorite scene to shoot. But we had an issue with releases with all the kids at the end. But we went into this post office facility, like a big facility in Cleveland, and they did an angels program where like different people who were just on the conveyor belt lines, with all the packages, they would adopt one letter. Each postal worker would adopt one letter to, it was hundreds of letters. Oh, wow. And it was just it was so touching that these people who were, don't have a lot, we're doing it year after year after year. And it was very touching to watch it all.
So neat. You mentioned the Pick of the Litter series on Disney Plus. My family, I've got 11-year-old boy-girl twins. We all love Pick of the Litter. Is there going to be a season 2?
No, there isn't.
Oh
Disney,
gosh,
I know. So we did. I don't know if you've seen the film. So there was a film.
I did not know there was.
Oh, so you should watch the film. That's another.
This is
So
good.
the film is on Hulu, so you can watch that, and that'll give you another fix. And then we did a series. No, I mean Disney Plus. I think they kind of morphed into just doing Disney products. I think. So no, we're not doing another one, but maybe we should on a different network later. That would be awesome.
Something to keep in mind.
It was very fun to do. Yeah, and so that one's about all the like a litter of the film is about a litter of puppies that we went the day they were born, and then we followed them through them becoming a guide dogs for the blind or getting cut. So it's a very rigorous program. And then which ones made it, which ones didn't. So the film was 5 in the same litter. And the series on Disney Plus they were all from different litters, but which ones would make it and which ones didn't.
I see. Yeah, it was exciting. You're rooting for them, of course, but sometimes it was sort of the more spirited, playful pups that washed out, I mean, they didn't have the focus or whatever, but they were sure adorable. They were sure cute.
Oh my God, every one of them is adorable. I just saw one in my neighborhood like 2 days ago. I was walking my dog and there was one from Guide Dogs for the Blind, and a high school girl who goes to the same high school as my kids. She was the puppy raiser, and I found out that she could bring them to the school. So now I think my son's going to apply to be a puppy raiser.
Oh, wonderful. So what about for you? What are you working on now?
So right now I'm working on a series about Dear Santa that'll be on ABC stations and then Hulu next Christmas. So we just shot that during COVID, which was very interesting. It was stressful the first time we did it, but then we added this other layer of shooting in COVID and then Omicron coming, and it was crazy. Yeah. But it was so beautiful to watch these kids get their letters, and we had to do a lot of planning ourselves, whereas with the film, when we did letter writing events, they were already in schools or they were in post offices. And now we had to make them ourselves because they had to be outside and nobody was having events. So we kind of conjured up all these letter writing events at boys and girls clubs. And that was so awesome, just to be around kids again and be around groups of kids again and, get them thinking creatively about their wishes and dreams. And it was awesome. And so that's going to come out in December. I'm really excited to get that. We're working
wonderful.
On
wonderful. We'll have to watch for that. And then what's sort of your, because I'm seeing a pattern here, what's sort of your vision for your career going forward? What other kinds of projects what are you jonesing to work on?
Gosh, I mean, my pie in the sky dream, which I'm not really, it's just not really in my wheelhouse 100%, is to make romantic comedies. That would be what I really love to do. I don't know, I would never quit documentaries because I love making them, and I feel like that's something I know how to do. Rom-coms are something I just think I could be good at, and I made some shorts just to see if I could do it, and so I did two of those. I was planning on doing a trilogy of romantic comedies that had female protagonists of different generations. So I did the 20-year-old protagonist, I did the 80-year-old protagonist, and then I was looking for a middle-aged one, but I was getting kind of stumped, I think, because it's too close to home. So all the middle-aged tropes kind of were feeling a little war-torn for me and negative, or I don't know. So but I might be percolating something now, but I would love to do rom-coms. And then also just, I'm not going to close the door to anything that's not lighthearted and life affirming. That's kind of what I've been doing lately. I think they just have to be awesome stories that I feel like need to be told, whether they're light or not, but. Sure.
Yeah. Well, I mean, sometimes heavy stories can be life affirming in the end too.
Yeah.
So sometimes really positive messages can come from surprising places. So you just
totally, yeah. One thing we're pitching right now, or about to start pitching, is a series, a limited part series on horse therapy. And we've shot a couple days on it, and that's, it's about therapy in terms of like what you might just go to a therapist and sit on a couch to do, kind of run of the mill things people have, like stress and depression and, relational problems and stuff like that. But all through therapy with horses. And I found just, even though it's kind of tough stuff to go to, to delve into, or loss, grief, some of them, it's really fascinating. And I've learned a lot just from being on these 2 days of shooting. And I've loved that. And I would love to see where that goes. So that's something we're pitching. Not super light, but they're horses. So that's fun. And I'm a little scared of horses. So a little bit. Yeah. Like I hide behind the cameraman the whole time.
So, well, that's fair. They're very big.
They're very, yeah. I'm just not used to it. I'm like, I never have been around them. So I'm a little like, people are always like, oh, are you a big horse person? I'm like, no, not at all. I'm just a big, I like relationships and thoughts between, people and, more like the stuff of life, more. And it just so happened, I thought horse therapy was cool. So
yeah, it does sound cool.
It's really cool. It's neat. Beautiful, beautiful animals too. So nice to shoot.
Let's talk about impact a little bit. What kind of impact do you hope to have through your work?
I mean, I guess the biggest like theme I see is sort of like a pay it forward type thing or like a drop in the bucket makes these ripples kind of. Those are the themes that I think keep going. Like, if you watch, whether it be Bat Kid or Pick of the Litter, where so many people it takes to like volunteer to make these dogs, something that like frees just one visually impaired person, that kind of work and dedication, it means so much to one person. And then that person goes on and lives a fulfilling life, and who knows what they're going to do for others. And I think that kind of like pay it forward, rippling out. I think, I know how we all feel when we watch movies that, speak to us. I think it's very powerful. So I think whatever I can make that does that and inspires anybody to do anything that they might not have otherwise, I mean, that's awesome.
Fantastic. And if you could help people to know or understand one thing, what would it be?
Gosh, I think that what you do matters, and that you can make a difference in a very small way. I mean, even something as simple as smiling at somebody at the store or doing the littlest thing makes a big impact, especially these days, because everybody's like glued to their phones and not really paying attention. I think you could do something very small that means a lot, or you could do something big, like make a movie or make a YouTube show or anything. I mean, I think it all really matters, and it's the connective tissue to life, and there's a lot of things that are algorithms and such that are trying to get us to look at scary things all the time and dark and depressing things. And so I think there's a lot of antidotes to that. And I think we could all be a part of it, and we shouldn't feel, any of us, whether you're a little kid, like my kids or your kids, or an elderly person, all the way in between, that we can change this and turn it around, just like one, it sounds cheesy, but like one smile at a time, I think.
That does not sound cheesy at all to me. That sounds wonderful. I completely agree with you. So Jane Goodall has a wonderful quote. She says, "We all make a difference in the world. It's up to us to decide what kind of difference we want to make."
I love that. Yes. That gave me chills. I like that. Well, it's true, because you can make a very negative, impact. Like you're doing it one way or the other. So why not move it towards good? Yeah.
Yeah, that's what this show is all about. Trying to inspire people to get out there and do that thing that lifts their spirits and makes them feel good and spreads more good feels in the world. So, well, it's kind
of strange that more people don't gravitate towards that, because it does feel good in the end. It's like, why would you click on the thing that's going to make you scared and sad? But we do it still. Why?
It's true. I don't know. It's a mystery. Well, there you go. There's your next documentary.
Too dark. Too dark.
Well, thank you so much. It's been a pleasure having you. Best of luck on all your projects, and maybe we'll see you again sometime.
That'd be great. Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Bye.